This is Heart Rhythm TV. My name is Janet Han, and I have the pleasure of being with my co-hosts, Julie Shea, Mehek Dande, here at HRX 2024, and it's the first day. We're done.
Yeah, and it's been exciting.
Yeah.
It's been super exciting.
So how have we liked it, ladies?
So we started off, we talked a little bit about the keynote speaker, Chris Mancy, which was a great presentation, and then we kind of moved on to digital innovation, AI, and the future of electrophysiology care, which was a great discussion. One of the things that I liked is they kept it very patient-centric.
Sure.
That wherever we go with AI, this is about the patient, right? So keeping it patient-centric was kind of the underpinning for a lot of the discussion. They talked about how AI can help to increase our clinic efficiencies,
Yes.
Helping with documentation, but also, in terms of technology, often technology can bog us down. So, how do we create a balance? The other thing was about efficiencies, which Jag brought up about, well, what's the end game there with efficiencies, right? Does this mean that we need to see more patients because we're now able to get through each patient quicker because of AI? So, where do we find that balance, I think was important. So that was a great topic. Also, cardio sleep, that Ken Ellenbogen's roundtable was a great discussion.
So tell us a little bit about cardio
talking
sleep.
a little bit about how kind of split night studies versus home studies, and how the split night study may be a little bit better because you can get the patient a diagnosis quicker, get them treated quicker. The use of sleep apnea and patient compliance with it, the use of the Inspire device, and kind of, the timing of when we do these sleep studies. Do they need to be done before we do an ablation or after an ablation? Does it matter? Again, these patients that have sleep apnea, typically they have the substrate there, right? So it's not kind of a quick turnaround type thing.
And I think the lifestyle modification piece, or whether we talk about sleep apnea or weight loss, especially in AFib patients, I think is such an important angle that came up during the roundtable about human intelligence and artificial intelligence. Where do we find the balance in healthcare? Where could we use large language models that are equipped with the right guardrails to at least deliver education to patients? We agree that we're not ready to make clinical decisions based on that yet, but could it be at the very least an informative educational tool? Absolutely. And I think the session for me that bookended the day today, the last session here, investing in cardiovascular innovation, what does the future hold? Really helpful session for innovators, for startups, kind of going through the whole life cycle of a company. Main takeaways, at least for me, were early stage startups. If you want to avoid dilution, you want to look at NIH funding, NIRR funding, or angel investors, so you're getting that initial boost when you don't need that much funding without dilution. And then the fact that not a lot of the acquiring companies, like the bigger enterprise companies that could acquire the technology, aren't really looking at companies that are pre-FDA clearance or pre-FDA approval, and that even when they do look into M&A, they think more about companies that are immediately profitable as opposed to something that has a 10, 20-year horizon of eventually becoming lucrative. So those were all really interesting inputs on how the goalposts are moving and how investment in the space is going, but very optimistic overall that there's still room for cardiovascular innovation and investment in that space.
Yeah, I think, one running theme that I saw that, Chris Mancy had mentioned at the beginning of the day is how we really want to use, AI to reduce variability in healthcare, and I feel like that was sort of a running theme in many of the sessions that I saw today, to make sure that we're using it appropriately, to make sure that healthcare is more equitable. Worrying again about the digital divide that was mentioned several times again. It's a problem 3 years ago, it remains a problem today, and it will remain a problem if we don't sort of get on top of health equity and tequity, right? So that was another session that occurred. He also talked a little bit about using it, using AI as an accelerator to make sure that you're not just grabbing data, but you're using that data to make diagnoses faster and more efficient and hopefully safer as well. And he also talked a little bit about how we need to understand how tech works in healthcare. Like, you can't just sort of throw it, make it stick. You have to understand the workflows and how that tech fits into that workflow to be able to make it efficient, right? Because
Right.
otherwise you're just kind of throwing things and seeing if it sticks.
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
So you have to make sure it works within that system to be able to, again, make it efficient. Otherwise you're just adding yet another thing.
100%. The conventional saying is culture eats strategy for breakfast.
Totally.
And now in the digital era, we're seeing that workflow eats algorithms for breakfast. I heard this from my mentors, and it could not be more true in this day and age. And also, we were talking about understanding the difference between an algorithm that was trained, tested, fixed in time, an ML algorithm, versus one that's constantly learning, because you have
Exactly.
to think about drift. If you do a drug trial and you show efficacy as long as the drug doesn't change and the receptors don't change, you would expect similar efficacy down the line. But with algorithms that are not fixed and are constantly learning, you have to think about drift and constantly reevaluate the clinical validity.
Evolving, right? You have to sort of evolve with the system, for sure.
I think one of the other things that I did, went to the Global Innovations
Oh,
with
yeah.
Prash Sanders, and talking a little bit about AI technology and how it's going to be able to apply to the United States versus India versus, how we're delivering care, that we're doing it in an equitable manner, so that
Absolutely.
the AI has to be able to recognize that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we've seen so much today.
Yeah.
I got to tell you, one other great part is just being able to catch up with friends and actually meet a lot of new people. I've already started to network a lot more at this session, even on day one. So lots of people to meet, lots of companies to meet, more friends to make, right? So
Yeah.
day one is done. It's in
Yep.
the books.
Kudos to the
Absolutely.
organizers.
Yeah.
They did, Jen and
Sunit
Sunit did a tremendous job putting this together.
Absolutely. We have
Absolutely.
2 more days to go.
Yeah.
It's only
Yeah.
the beginning, right?
Lots of learning, lots of growth. Can't wait for the next 2 days.
Absolutely. All right, guys. So HRX 2024, day one in the books. We'll see you tomorrow.